Okay, well, welcome to the MAP and PCOM Library Author Series. I'm Dr. Scott Glassman, the director of the online Master of Applied Positive Psychology program here at PCOM, and we have a wonderful author night in store for you. But before I introduce Dr. Froh, I do want to share a little bit about our Master of Applied Positive Psychology program. So, if you don't mind, Jeff, if you could unshare for a moment, I just want to put up a slide for us all to take a look at. So if you are, and we have some of our great MAP students here with us this evening. Thank you so much for your support and your enthusiasm. It's such a joy working with you in the MAP program. If you're interested in a degree that helps you more fully understand the science of well-being and apply it in ways that improve our world, as well as learning some practical skills in mindfulness and motivational interviewing and program evaluation and group facilitation, then we invite you to take a little bit of a closer look at our one-year program. We're fully online. Feel free to snap a picture of our QR code that will take you directly to the MAP website. And we also are having an information session Wednesday, November 6th. That's at 5:30, 5:30 to 6:30. So if you want to hear more about the program, I'll be doing a deep dive. I'll be showing you the curriculum, and it's a wonderful way to kind of think about how positive psychology could be a part of your next steps in your career or your educational journey. Maybe it's a way that you want to job craft a little bit, have new opportunities, perhaps as a chief people officer or as a coach. So lots of different possibilities in the field. So we'd love for you to join us. And it's it's a passion of mine working in this field of positive psychology and education. So with that, we're going to stop the share here and we're going to go back to uh, Jeff's presentation. So Jeff, if you wouldn't mind just putting up your slides again, that would be great.
And also, I am going to mute all, but that means Dr. Froh and Dr. Glassman, could you just unmute yourselves after that?
Absolutely. Yep. All right. So tonight we're going to be hearing about the intersection with positive psychology, faith, and spirituality, as that can be helpful in emerging adulthood, especially for young adults in their 20s who may be feeling like adrift or a little bit lost, dealing with anxiety or depression. When I think back to my 20s, I can really relate to a lot of those feelings, as I'm sure many of us here can. And no matter what your faith or religion is that you were raised in, whether you're practicing or non-observant, no matter what degree of spirituality that you use to guide your daily decisions, whether that's a little bit or a lot,
Oh, no,
um,
everything's going good.
I I hope that you'll find some resonance with some of the underlying constructs that Dr. Froh is going to be talking about. So I'm talking about things like virtue-based living, transcendence, connection. These are some of the broader factors that we know from the literature are closely tied to happiness and thriving. And there's really no one better to talk about that in the context of emerging adulthood than Dr. Jeffrey Froh. So we're thrilled to have him here. Dr. Froh is a best-selling author and professor of psychology at Hofstra University. He is the founder and past clinical director of the Positive Psychology Institute for Emerging Adults, and he's the co-owner of Positive Psychological Counseling Services. A Distinguished Teacher of the Year recipient, Dr. Froh created a positive psychology course that is among the most popular in Hofstra's history. His books include If Time Fell from the Sky, co-authored with his 10-year-old daughter, which is amazing, and Thrive, 10 Commandments for 20-somethings to live the best life possible, which we're here to celebrate tonight. Dr. Froh's work has appeared in the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Los Angeles Times, and New York Times. Most weekends, he and his family eat bagels at the beach and skip rocks, which is Absolutely lovely, Jeff. Just like thinking about that puts me on an instant mental vacation. So, Dr. Froh, thank you for being here, and we're really looking forward to your presentation tonight. I would just ask everybody, please make sure that your microphones are muted. We'll have 10 minutes for questions toward the end of the evening, but feel free as we go along, if you have questions for Dr. Froh, to put them into the chat window, and we'll be monitoring that as we go. So, Jeff, take it away.
Awesome. All right, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Glassman. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm pretty pumped up, so let's just get rocking and rolling here. Okay, so yeah, so in getting ready for this, it maybe revisit a question that I was asking myself a lot while writing Thrive, which was, did I choose Thrive or did Thrive choose me? So now when I was sitting with this question, again, while getting ready for tonight, for some reason, the image that just spontaneously emerged in my mind was God placing within me a heart-shaped Christmas cookie. And I said, wow, well, that's just such like a pretty neat and sweet way to think about someone's mission, how that is just placed within in that way. And then I thought to myself, well, what's the deal with the cookies? And I think it's really just because my wife has convinced me to watch one too many Hallmark Christmas movies. So please think of me over the season as I continue to do so and not learn from my lesson. So like Dr. Glassman said, in 2008, Hofstra was kind enough to give me the opportunity to create a positive psychology course, and I've been running it since. And over the course of the semester, the students complete 5 positive psych interventions, and then they write a little 2-page reflection of that. And I did the math, and over the course of time, I've read about 6,000 essays. So I have a really good sense of kind of what's going on with 20-somethings. I've read a lot of joy. I've read an awful lot of pain. And what it made me realize was that a lot of the data that are coming out are 100% true. So again, I'm seeing this in the essays, and the data reflect what's in the essays and vice versa. So here's just kind of one example. Well, first off, they're known as literally the loneliest generation. And here's some of the numbers. 30% of emerging adults are reporting always or often feeling lonely. 18 to 22-year-olds, which is the classic, undergrad age range here, they are the loneliest. And then a little bit older than that, they're immediately behind. And then we have about 22% report being friendless. These numbers are pretty staggering as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if you think about it, 1/3 of young people are saying, I pretty much feel lonely all the time, right? Or 1/5 to 1/4 are saying, I feel like I have no friends. And seeing this over and over and over, I said to myself, you know what? I understand that the students are benefiting from the class, and I think that's so wonderful, but I think I could be doing more, and I wanted to, and I tried to. So in 2016, Dr. Glassman has mentioned that I'd started the Positive Psychology Institute for Emerging Adults, which is a campus-based clinic. And that was over in 2016. So while I was running it, my grad students and I were seeing exactly what I was seeing in the classroom in those essays, except just levels to the game. Do you know what I mean? So that was in 2016, trying to help them beyond what the class was doing. Also in 2016, I started a private practice. And the reason being was I wanted to continue to do my best to bring positive clinical psychology out there into the world to help as many people as possible. And while I was there in 2017, that was when I started writing Thrive. And that was for the first time in my life where I fell absolutely in love with writing. And I said to myself, you know what? If I want to give this away and try and reach the masses as much as I can, I think I need to just focus on the book because I know the book that I want to write. And there's no way I can possibly do that with these other things. Not to mention, again, I started having a love affair with the thesaurus there. So ran the practice from 2016, 2018, did the clinic 2016, 2018, fell so in love with writing, had to give it away. I shut the practice down in 2018. And the clinic, one of my dear friends, Dr. Norm Miller, was kind enough to take over the clinic on campus, and he's been running it since and doing an absolutely phenomenal job. But that's kind of where, you know, a little bit of background was. I was trying so hard to give this away because I saw what it was doing in the classroom, and I ultimately got to a point where I said, you know what, for me, maybe the book scene is the way to go. So here's the OGTOC, the original table of contents for Thrive. And you'll see, you know, we have our kind of major domains. If we look at the yellow highlight there, right, we have our intrapersonal, then we go to our interpersonal, and then we go to our transpersonal, right? So transpersonal, again, is more of that spiritual, you know, part. And again, some of these chapter titles, like, just, you know, please bear with me. Look at number 5, pizza at 2 a.m. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. But so what happened was, when I was able to sit back a little bit and look at this thing, is I looked at the transpersonal growth and I said, you know what? You're so heavy on the personal, you're so with the interpersonal, but then you have like nothing going on here with that, you know, spiritual domain. You might want to reconsider that when you consider the data on spirituality and its role in well-being. All right, so spirituality is pretty, you know, it increases damn near everything, right? So here we just have a couple of examples here, right? We have your happiness, social belonging, meaning, purpose, mindfulness, civic engagement, longevity, generosity. It is because it is related with quote unquote damn near everything that I like to refer to it as a Velcro variable. Everything sticks to it. You know what I mean? It's really, really amazing stuff. At the same time, it also is, you know, decreases quote damn near everything. So here are some examples. We have drug use, alcoholism, suicide rate, infidelity, anxiety, depression, cardiovascular disease. And because of that, my friend Norm likes to refer to it as a Teflon variable. So we have spirituality really giving us major bang for the buck. We got the Velcro, we got your Teflon, and I said, you know what? I think I really need to revisit this stuff and to see where I can include it in whatever conceptualization or framework I have. Because when you remember, again, the OGTOC, I really kind of scratched the surface with it. I really didn't give it its fair attention at all. And it needs its fair attention, right? So, and Dr. Glassman, I love that you'd mentioned it, you know, kind of opening up, but just saying like, hey, look, this really matters to a lot of people in whatever way it may present itself, but it matters. Okay. So now some of you may be like, okay, fine, I get it. It matters. But like, why are we bringing this thing into the therapy room? Well, I'm going to tell you why we are. Number one, 71% of Americans say that their religion is, quote, really important to them. All right, so that's just fact on that one. 51% is referring to the psychotherapy patients that say their religious and spiritual beliefs really help them to be healthy, mentally speaking. 66% of psychotherapy patients also say that their religion and their spirituality is what they turn to when times are toughest. And then finally, 59% of psychotherapy patients are saying, I wish my therapist knew how to speak about this. That doesn't mean that you know they want you going chapter verse on them or anything like that. There's no preaching required. You don't need to be, you know, a pastoral counselor. That's not what they're saying. All they're saying is this right here. And this is from the American Psychiatric Association. Check this out. It is important for psychiatrists to explore and understand the religious and spiritual values of their patients as parts of their assessment and treatment of mental health disorders. When possible and appropriate, psychiatrists may incorporate their patients' religious and spiritual values into treatment just as they would for their patients' other values. That's the point. Okay, so what I think we all need to understand as counselors, counselors, practitioners, life coaches, etc., is that this is not about us. Okay, it's like any other value. If it matters to the people and they are benefiting from it, then at least have a conversation with them about it. Okay, so again, what I learned was that spirituality absolutely matters, and I needed to find room for it in my framework, in my conceptualization, and I wanted to do it from a different angle. I was not about to just follow what everyone else was doing. And then we wrap it up with Ken Pargament. You got to love this quote. This is amazing. We're not only biological, social, and psychological beings, but spiritual beings as well. We have a yearning to connect with something larger than ourselves, something sacred. So if you accept that on some level, that is true, and you have these patients saying, hey, this stuff matters to me, and I really wish you would just speak with me about it, then maybe we all need to kind of start having a different conversation with ourselves, with each other, and with our patients. And I was hoping Thrive could be used in a way that people could have those types of conversations, as difficult as they may be. And I appreciate that. So that said, I'm at Mass one day, and my friend and one of our clergy, Deacon Gene, is giving a homily, and this is what he says. He says, I'm sorry, the little people box is in my way here. Keeping the commandments sets us free. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't even know what he's talking about with that. What do you mean the commandments set us free? Aren't they restricting? Don't rules suffocate and make us not, do what we want, when we want, how we want? It didn't make any sense to me. And I just thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it all week. Happened to run into him, thankfully, the following week. And I said, hey, look, I've been thinking about what you said about, commandments setting us free. Doesn't really make sense. I thought rules suffocate and restrict. To which he said, keeping God's commandments protects us from sin, and when we're free from sin, we can be all God created us to be. And that one hit hard, man. That one hit hard, because what it made me realize was this, that there is no love without freedom. Meaning, how can you have a love for living, a love for pursuing your potential, unless you are free from what is getting in the way? Okay, we can call it unhealthy behaviors, we could call it sin, call it stupidity, call it all, whatever the case is. We really got to do our best to kind of dial that stuff down and get that out of our lives as best we can. Then we will have an absolute love for pursuing our potential and getting closer to it, and probably even achieving it, I would say. This right here, by the way, this is an excerpt of a Mass Journal entry. I took pictures of them, and they're all throughout Thrive, so just heads up, because another one's coming out just soon. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to start, not reading the Bible, not skimming. I'm going to study this thing the best I can, and I'm really going to try to figure this out, that are there ways that we can live, and can I somehow take this old sacred text and modernize it for today? And can I do that particularly with a psychological spin to it? That's kind of where my head was at. So to give you a sense of how serious I took that, was in 2010, I made my communion and confirmation, and my friend gave me this Bible as a gift. That was in 2010. In 2017, when I started writing Thrive, that thing in front of you right now was brand new. I did not touch it for the 7 years. And then Thrive comes around, and you can see what happens when you have a passion and you really want to figure something out. But that's like real deal, worn, torn, absolutely beautiful. But I studied it till no end, particularly the 10 Commandments themselves. And I wanted to see, again, can I modernize this? Can I somehow come up with some psychological commandments that would be based in Scripture? So this is what I had to do. This was the game plan. I had to first create these 10 commandments. Then I had to order the 10 commandments. Okay, so obviously lowercase c being commandments to thrive, capital C being the biblical. So I wanted to map, the commandments to thrive onto God's 10 commandments. And then the ordering was incredibly important to me, because again, let's go back to OGTOC, is that thing had really no order. I mean, I know I have my domains and all, but when you looked within each domain, there was no sequence. It wasn't systematic. It was a hodgepodge. It was just all over the place. It was a nightmare. So I needed to create the 10, and then I needed to place them in proper order, as far as I was, again, in my mind, what I determined to be proper order. So those are my two big steps in trying to figure this thing out. All right. So Dr. Glassman and I were chatting, and we were both saying how everybody loves interventions and tips and strategies. And again, I'm talking to a room full of practitioners. So I know you like that. I like that. So at the end of every chapter, I have 5 evidence-based and clinically based tips. And this is just an example of what it looks like after chapter 10, Thou Shalt Master Mission. So at the end of each of the commandments that we're going to talk about tonight, I'm going to give you one tip, okay, for each of those commandments. And I'm going to read them because there is some nuance and some words in there I want to make sure that I don't skip. So I don't just want to summarize. All right, so just a heads up on where we're going. All right, so here we go. So this is commandment 1, according to God here, is I am the Lord your God, you shall not have strange gods before me. And what he's referring to here really is just he wants to be the center stage for you. Do you know what I mean? He wants to be your number one. He wants to be your everything. He wants to be the center of your life. So when the Pharisees at one point, they test Jesus and they go, hey, what's the greatest commandment of all? Here's the quote right here. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. In other words, you're going all in. You're all in. Okay, that's what this commandment is you're all in. That's incredibly difficult to do, right? Says it right here, right? It requires nurturing and protecting your faith while rejecting opposition. It's the same thing, though, with pursuing our dreams as well, is that you have to protect your priorities to do the things that you want to do, okay? You are going to have to reject opposition and trying to pursue what it is that you want to do with your life. So here's a direct quote from Thrive, which I'll have throughout when they're in bold, that you'll know what it means. If we do not do this, our dreams remain dreams and our mission will remain unknown and incomplete. Okay, so again, it's about ultimate focus. So for us here, then the commandment is thou shalt have direction. All right, so there's your commandment. And we're not talking order right now, by the way. These are just, we're going through the 10, then we're going to have to come back and we'll worry about our ordering later. Okay, now's not the time for that. So here's the tip. If you question God's existence and think faith and science are mutually exclusive, review the Easter eggs in this book. Study the weird science, ponder it, try dismantling the logic and question the facts. Then, to learn more about the interface of science and religion, select one or more of the books from God's library and create a book club with atheists, agnostics, and theists. Challenge each other, debate each other, push each other, figuratively. Be flexible and open-minded. Perhaps you'll get closer to God, perhaps not. But if you keep analyzing the data, you'll likely have to make room in your heart for another friend. And the reason why this tip is there is that chapter about having direction, it's not just about personal direction, but it's also spiritual direction as well. Okay, so again, there's always that element kind of woven throughout the book. The next one up is you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. That's God's commandment number 2. So we should honor God's name, but we should also honor our name, which we often do not. Instead, we call ourselves stupid and loser and moron, etc., especially when what we don't get is directly defined to our worth, right? So if your worth is based on getting a certain job and you don't get it, well, then here comes the beat down, hardcore. That's just the way that one works, right? You're interested in dating someone, that one doesn't work out, boom, here comes the beat down. As we write and Thrive, therefore, acknowledge your worth, replace criticism with compassion, hate with love, judgment with acceptance. And the commandment is, thou shalt accept thyself. Oops, sorry, this is getting a little touchy. Okay, so here's an example. Do shame attacks, deliberately act foolish in public, walk a hot dog on a leash, pay for an expensive item with coins, preferably on Black Friday. 'Tis the season, by the way, for that, so I really hope I get an email saying that there are some people in the store angry at you for paying in change. Walk around the track throughout your neighborhood or on a treadmill at the gym dressed like your favorite Marvel superhero or Harry Potter character. While taking public transportation, stand up, scream every stop and the next stop, and then sit down until you reach your destination. You'll eventually habituate to the horror of rejection. Okay, this one is kind of like a softball when I was making this one here. All right, so remember to keep holy the Lord's Day. This is just all about the Sabbath, giving us time to pause, to chill, and to hang out, to spend some time with God. All right. Classic verse. Come to me, all who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. What we're talking about is this. Resist the cultural ADHD. Sleep deprivation doesn't signify success. It signifies masochism. So this was, again, this was a nice little softball. Thou shalt slow down is what we're talking about. Okay, for this one, the tip would be something like this. Be childlike and foster a strong play ethic. Host game nights, ride your bike, join a running club or snowshoe. Go backpacking, cliff camping, or spelunking. Paint, have a catch, sleigh ride, or snorkel. Climb a tree, kite surf, or learn hip-hop dance. While playing, feel God's presence. Enjoy him. He's better company than your phone. All right, so for this one, honor your father and your mother, I was like, okay, well, it's 20-somethings. I could easily kind of go the parent route. But again, I wanted more general overarching rules that would apply to not just, let's say, parents, but would apply to all relationships. So I didn't just want to go to the respect your mom and dad, which is indeed what this commandment is referring to. So where I went with it was I want us to respect another parent. And that parent, in my opinion, is our communal, omnipresent parent, nature. So we have, like any loving mother, nature rests between the divine and human. She's kind, generous, supportive, and nurturing. A good son or daughter, we should sit with her, silently, holding her hand, appreciating her beauty, listening to her stories, and internalizing her wisdom. So honor your father and your mother turns into, for us, thou shalt befriend nature. All right, so now there's our parent, and that's what we would like to do. Okay, so here's one of the tips for that. I'm just making sure. Lie in the grass and watch the clouds or wish upon a star. Jump in a lake hooting and hollering or summit a mountain. Build a snowman, go canoeing or birdwatch. During these activities, feel your connection to nature. Recognize your dependence on her. Thank her for bringing you joy and peace. Thank her for sustaining your life. How do you best express your gratitude? Protect her as she protects you. All right, so again, these are just, then we have you shall not kill. And I was like, well, where am I going with this one here? Let me just do a quick check here. Okay. All right, we're good. You shall not kill. All right. What we ultimately end up killing oftentimes is our time and our energy, right? Just kind of wasting it away. So I write about there, how many of us are murderers. We first experience first blood with small game. Exercising dies, sleeping dies, praying dies. Bloodthirsty, we then kill the biggest game, relationships. Unless stopped, we keep killing, creating lives filled with exhaustion, chaos, despair, and loneliness. So somehow you shall not kill for us turns into thou shalt stay focused. All right, so stop killing up the time, stop killing up the energy. Let's protect, what we love so much. All right. Our tip here, very simply, is spend about 30 minutes planning your next week. Consider your roles: spouse, parent, student, employee, and parishioner. What's the most important thing you can do in each one? After pinpointing your priorities, prioritize and protect them. Make your big rocks find their way into your calendar, and make your pebbles fight their way into your calendar. All right, so now we have you should not commit adultery. This one's an obvious one, but here, check this out. So the Bible verse that I'm going to show you here, if you could just imagine if we could actually be effective with helping 20-somethings have this kind of love in their lives. I mean, hell, if all of us could have more of this love in our lives, I would have to suspect it's going to be pretty damn good. Especially when, again, I'm going back to the 6,000 essays. I've read too many stories of heartache, too many stories about how much people hate the hookup culture, though people like to say that generation loves it. They're telling me, no, actually, not really. It's actually pretty damn crummy. So this is the love that I would love for them to be able to experience, all right? And again, this is classic. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. Love is not pompous. It is not inflated. It is not rude. It does not seek its own interests. It is not quick-tempered. It does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. So this turns into thou shalt love deeply. All right, that's what I would really, really love for the 20-somethings to experience, of course. All right, so in Thou Shalt Love Deeply, I created a map or a roadmap to love deeply. Okay, so there are 5 back roads and there are 5 main roads. Got to get through the back roads before you can go cruising on the main roads. So here are just some example. Okay, so for generosity, the tip, right? Graciously give your partner patience, empathy, and compassion. For appreciation, recognize your partner's kindness, express gratitude. Touch turnpike, hold hands, snuggle with and caress your partner, be affectionate. Commitment causeway, fight your desmesphie phobia, take the risk, commit. And then finally, dreams expressway, chase dreams and catch them together. I'm sure many of you are going, what is desmesphie phobia? It is a phobia that I created. Desmesphie means commitment in Greek. So desmesphie phobia is a fear of commitment. All right. No, you will not find it in the DSM yet, I guess. Give it a couple years. All right. Another one, you shall not steal, right? I'm like, where am I going with this? This is like a bit much. So where I ended up going was this right here, is that we end up stealing other people's missions. That's the thing, right? You look around, you say, oh, well, this person's doing that and this person's doing this, and you know what, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it just like that. And this, it's like, no, mission is something that is very, very unique to each of us. It's an adventure, and it's something that you must complete. Mission has such a huge part of my conceptualization and the framework as well. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it supersedes meaning, it supersedes purpose. I'm not saying those aren't important, of course they are, but you will get meaning and purpose, in my opinion, if you are pursuing and trying to master your mission. And here it is. Again, these are all just, it's unique, all right? Everyone's got to kind of find their thing. Thou shalt master mission. Before I forget, when looking at those essays, again, we're talking like 6,000. That's a lot. That's an insane amount. I noticed that there were like 3 themes that the 20-somethings really, really struggled with. And I'll go with direction, having direction, feeling very, very all over the place, very anxious because of that, right? Like I have like no aim, or my aim is off kind of thing, right? So you have direction. Love, they really struggle with love. And then finally, meaning. But I got to be honest, I'm going to go a step further, and I'm going to say they don't use the word mission, but they're really saying that I struggle with mission, because oftentimes they would use the language, I want to do what I'm supposed to do. I want to do what I have to do. That's higher order, but that's where we went with this, with this framework. We went high order. All right. And then where we are here. Mastering your mission requires traveling unit. Ask others to pray for you. Leave mass. Request an additional blessing. Building a spiritual army will help you accomplish the 3 S's to master mission: seek, serve, and surrender. And that, again, to me is also the major, major point. If you want to identify and master the mission, you got to focus on seeking it, man. Then you have to serve and totally and surrender and commit to something. And that's how it works. That's how it works. There's no kind of I'm kind of in, I'm kind of out. No, that's not how mission works. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. In other words, like, stop lying to people. All right, stop speaking unjustly to people. So it's like, well, where do we go to here? Well, we lie to everyone. We lie to our family, we lie to our friends, we lie to our coworkers, and we lie to ourselves. What do we lie about? Who we are. We do it all the time. Okay? So, longing to belong, we wear our costumes, we play our character, we deliver our performance. We want connection, and here's the line. Yet we're disconnected from the person most responsible for our connection, ourselves. That's the problem. So how do you get more connected to yourself? Thou shalt be real. You got to be authentic. Otherwise, again, good luck on this. Okay, here's an example of how you can start to become more authentic, because it is very, very difficult. I even write it's probably might even be the hardest commandment to keep to thrive. Stop trying to numb your fear, loneliness, and shame. Put down your phone, put down your drink, put down your work. Instead, confront your suffering, learn about yourself, go deep, walk in the darkness, tolerate bumping into things before your eyes adjust. What monsters lurk? How do they hurt you? Why are they there? Who unleashed them? Stay in the dark until you have answers. When you do, cultivate self-compassion. Write a letter to your 5-year-old self. What would you tell him or her? Follow your advice. Super hard, super, super hard. But man, do I encourage you to go on that journey. It's a beautiful one. Absolutely beautiful. All right, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. What we're talking about here is from a sexual perspective, right? And one of the reasons is sex is sacred. It is also a divine gift, like life itself. So how do we go from you shall not covet your neighbor's wife to anything that I could fit into the Thrive framework? This is how we do it. Life becomes more cherished, significant, and holy when we consider it a gift. Really, please pay attention to the yellow. Super important for the whole shebang. Gratitude for life fuels our passion for helping others, doing God's work, and fulfilling our destiny. Therefore, don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet your neighbor's life. Be grateful for yours, right? But that gratitude for life fuels, that is going to play key when we look at the order of which I place these commandments. Gratitude for life is the fuel for mastering your mission. Because again, good luck with that. You are going to need a ton of energy, and recognizing that and again, being more in that religious kind of spiritual realm, the book anyway, it's being grateful for life in general. And it's also, can you maybe just go one step more and acknowledge that there could be perhaps, let's just at least go with perhaps, it is, right, a divine source for your life. If you recognize that and you say, yeah, you know what, like it is God, it is the universe, it is whoever, whatever, the only appropriate response for that life is to identify and master your mission and crush it. That's the only appropriate response, because the gift of life was given to you, right? And your mission was given to you, as I was kind of joking in the beginning about the cookie, but I really do think that is true. If you can acknowledge that as such, and then you return the favor by mastering the mission, it's like, there you go. That's a life well lived. That is a really good life well lived, right? Thou shalt give thanks. And then finally, so let me just tell you before I kind of get into this. So throughout the book, I have just a handful, very in-depth interviews with some incredibly inspiring 20-somethings. And one of them is this young lady, Mairead, who happens to be my cousin. And it's in chapter 9, Thou shalt give thanks. And people say it's the hardest hitting chapter and commandment in the book. So here are just some quotes from Mairead, who is a, quote, Hydra killing warrior. You'd have to read it to find out. Finding your purpose in life is worth the pain while finding it. If you're looking to find purpose and joy in life, look no further than life itself. And life is too short, too fragile, and too valuable to treat it as anything less than a divine gift. Mairead is just doing beautiful things, and she's a beautiful person. All right, and then finally, you should not covet your neighbor's goods. All we're talking about here, I'm just going to kind of jump this here for time, is thou shalt live simply. Okay, it's kind of where we're going with this one. All right. And then finally, the little tip on this. Study Jesus' psychological math formulas. Prosperity plus pageantry does not equal paradise. Sandals plus service equals serenity. Memorize them, then apply them. Should you buy yourself another fashion accessory? Or should you buy someone lunch? Should you chill with people who think they're cool? Or should you chill with people you think are cool? Should you spend your life trying to impress others? Or should you spend your life trying to help others? With practice, you'll pass the most important test, life. All right. So those are the 10 commandments that I had, that I created based on God's commandments, using his commandments as inspiration. So this is what we have overall. I'm just going to skim down them kind of quickly. As I'm doing it though, see if you can make some connections. And maybe you're like, oh, direction goes with slow down, and, love deeply has got to go with give thanks, just to start to get a sense of where you think I might have grouped these things. All right, so this is what we have, and this is not in order. This is still in the biblical commandment order, which I didn't want. I knew we could do something better for our purpose. Okay, so now we're going to order. Now we're going to make the approach systematic and sequential. So we've talked a bit about mission. Nothing's going to do it justice better than this right here. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to listen to Kermit. So this is what we're talking about here. Written in Thrive. We've all been half asleep. We've all heard voices, and we're all terrified of pursuing and becoming what we're supposed to be. We should instead be more terrified of letting our souls wither and die, of following the compass of comfort, not courage. Levers and zippers realized their potential and changed the world because they knew what they could do. They knew their mission. They also heeded their creator. Do likewise. So that's the level that we're saying. It's you definitely hear it, man. You know what you got to do. It's just, man, it is so terrifying though. So terrifying to take that step. So, all right, so we got the conceptualization down. Now we got the framework. I'm trying to think about this thing, and I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to call it? First thing was theoretical framework. And I'm like, that's pathetic and boring. I can't go with that. So I just said, nope, scratch that one. And I said, well, what about the heart? And I was like, well, that sounds like really cute and all, but like, I don't know, I'm not really digging it either. So let's kind of move on with that one. I then had to think about, so I'm trying to name it. I have no idea. And then trying to think about literally a framework, right? Like the structure. What is this thing going to look like? And the best I could come up with at the time was I had all 10 commandments at the bottom on tier 1. I had all the domains, personal, social, spiritual, at tier 2. And then I had overall thriving at tier 3, right? And I could probably pass that off. I could convince people that that one works, and no one's going to really say too much. I just didn't like it, though. And then even when I was getting ready for the presentation, I'm like, where did I even get this general idea from? Because I really don't even like it. And I'm a school psychologist by training. So here's just an example of like IQ tests, and then their subscales and their general factor. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. Was there are the commandments to thrive, and there are the domains, and there's the overall. So that's kind of like, I guess, what influenced my thinking. I don't know. So I asked my son about it, and he was at the time 12 years old. We were at the bus stop, and I said, hey, man, I'm having a really hard time here. I'm trying to like come up with a framework and a name and all. Like, what do you think? So this is what he said to me. Daddy, calling it the heart doesn't really make sense. The heart gives us life, but it doesn't provide structure to our body. The skeleton does. Also, I know you think everything leads up to mastering our mission, and that spiritual stuff is the most important. So, wouldn't it make sense for your model to be vertical, with each commandment linked to its own area of thriving? Then, everything could build up to mastering mission, and then that would finally lead to overall thriving. And I was like, you know what, man? Not bad, dude. Not bad. So that's what we did. So please give me your focus to the left, if you could, please, where it says the skeleton. First off, do you know how many hours I spent looking for that font? Outrageous, and I would do it again. So we ended up calling it the skeleton. So heart goes out the window. Theoretical framework is pathetic. That's gone. So if you just go with me, starting at the bottom, you have your personal right at the bottom. We move up, we go to social. We move up, we go to spiritual. What was my thinking on this was, I know there are many ways of looking at it, but this is where my head's at. Personal, get yourself in order, right? If I'm in order, then we can have a better relationship, then we can be in order. And if I'm in order and we're in order, that puts me in a better position to listen for that sound that tells me what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, and then to go and pursue what it is I'm supposed to be doing with my life. All right, that was my thinking, just give you a sense of the order. All right, so again, if we kind of look at the, just doing a time check here, if we look at personal, all right, we have a sense of direction, right? We kind of know where it is we need to go. I'm going to stay focused doing so. Anything getting in my way, I'm going to say, get it out of here. I got to focus on the priorities. I'm going to live super simple. I'm going to kind of, go a la Thoreau. I'm going to adopt intrinsic values, forget about the extrinsic ones that are just going to weigh me down. And I'm going to get myself in the best possible order that I can. All right. So now boom, there you go, personal. All right. So we have that. Just for a time sense, I'm just going to kind of skip this. But in Thrive, I lay this out because the framework was so incredibly important for me. I needed the reader to understand where I went. So not only do we have the skeleton, but for every section, I spent a lot of time. Again, I kept it to only like 120 words, deliberately trying to just get to it. So that's your personal thriving, all right? It kind of repeats what I just said to you. Boom, look at this now. Now we go social, and what ended up making the social domain. We have accept thyself, we have be real, we have love deeply. And look at how these things came together so beautifully, I think. If I accept myself, right, what it really means is I accept myself unconditionally without you having to like me. I want you to like me. There are benefits if you like me, but I don't need you to like me. If I can get myself in that position, now I'm confident to do what? To be myself. Thou shalt be real. Then, if I am real, I am then only going to have the kind of relationships that I dream of, and I'm going to be able to love deeply after that. Okay, so this is how these commandments kind of got grouped together. Again, I write about it there. I, just said what I had to say to you. And then here, and this is what made the spiritual domain of the 10 that I created, right? So slow down, like I was saying, easily someone could argue, oh yeah, but Jeff, that should go into personal, right? Because slowing down is healthy, for you. It's like, I get it, not arguing, right? The reason why I fit it here was the main point of the slowdown was more than like the physical health, the mental health. It really was to slow down, to listen to the whisper, to that, to that voice, that sort of thing, right? Hanging out in nature is a great place to hear the voice. That's why I made it here. And repeating what I said before, but it's important. Give thanks. Notice it totally precedes master mission. Easily we could have put give thanks in personal. Easily we could have put give thanks in social. I didn't want to do that. I said, I'm not going to make gratitude. I'm not going to make this chapter or part of this book another one of gratitude is good for you. Gratitude is good for your relationships. I said, no, we got to do something different than that. And so for me, it was the giving thanks to God for life that provides the fuel to pursue and master my mission. That's your order. And then, of course, boom, you have your mission in the end. And then, of course, I read about it. People often ask me, they're like, Jeff, what does this look like? Like, who's thriving? This sounds so like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, I get it. Guess what? I'm not doing it. I'm trying, but it's damn hard. Well, I know someone who is doing it. And this is my cousin Mairead, who is the Hydra killing warrior that I had mentioned to you about 20 minutes ago. This young lady is thriving more than I ever will. And I say that, man, with all my heart and so confidently. So here we go. Let's see how great Mairead is. And she's the epitome, man.
The doctor said, I think this is cancer. If you were my child, I would send you to Memorial Sloan Kettering. Ever since I was 8 years old, that was always my dream, to come back and work at MSK. When I got the email that I got the job, I immediately sobbed because it was finally fruition of everything that I've been working so hard towards. It's definitely a different experience being 26 with stage 4 breast cancer. It really rocked my system, but I am so grateful to be at MSK, surrounded by the amazing people who are there. I feel so lucky to be able to be treated by my colleagues. We had a cowgirl chemo party where we even got my infusion nurse, Antonina, to wear a cowgirl hat. It was the best, most amazing time I've ever had at chemo. Living with stage 4 cancer as a young adult is very hard, but it's not impossible. You are not defined by your cancer. You are still you.
So let me, man, all right. Sorry, that gets me every time, man.
The doctor said, I think this is
Excuse me.
cancer. If you
Okay. So I interviewed Mairead, as I said, for chapter 9. And I remember, man, when I've got some of my friends who were on the call have heard this. This is just one of these stories, man. And I was in my office at home and I was reading the first final kind of draft, of the interview where it all came together. And I literally just got done reading it. And my wife opens my office door and she goes, "Oh my God, honey, what's the matter?" And it was because, yeah, whatever, man, having a hard time right now. But I was just, dude, I was bawling. I was crying so crazy. I was so overwhelmed, man, by this young lady's strength of when she did have cancer as a young girl at 7 years old, and they beat it. And she went to MSK, Memorial Sloan Kettering. That's where she was treated. She totally beats it, man. And this is what I'm talking about, mission. So here she is, a young kid, man, crazy, crazy cancer, goes to MSK, gets treated, beats it, then works at MSK with the same doctors and nurses that treated her. Like, she has been busting her butt, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, just what an incredible story. And now here we are. She's going through this battle right now again. So it's pretty crazy. So anyway, she's got it. She's got it as far as I'm concerned. She's got mission. She's got love. She's got everything. So that's one of the uh, bracelets from a fundraiser that we had for her. And the quote is there because that's Mairead, man. No matter how tough things are, she always says, "Be grateful always, be grateful always." So again, and people like, who thrives? How do you thrive? That's how you thrive. That's how you thrive, man. You find out what you got to do with life. You get thrown some difficulty. You figure it out, man. You move on. You keep loving people. I mean, I don't know what the hell else to say, but she's an inspiration. So that's that, my friends. And we'll just kind of wrap this up. So with our thriving here ourselves, keeping God's 10 commandments saves us from spiritual sin and helps us live virtuously. Keeping the 10 commandments to thrive saves us from psychological sin and helps us live our best life possible. Thus, keeping both sets of commandments is critical for developing our whole being. Unlike Moses atop Mount Sinai, God didn't give me 2 stone tablets written with his finger. Instead, he gave me 10 stone tablets written with his heart. Come to confession. Let's absolve your quote-unquote sins. For penance, read this book and pray to God, often, sincerely, humbly. You'll need him to thrive. We have to have a passion to follow the commandments of God. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. That was really, really wonderful. Do we have any questions? We have a few minutes for questions, so feel free to put your questions into the chat, or you can open your microphone and ask your question. I guess while maybe we're waiting, one question I had was, how much is technology? Have you thought about technology, TikTok being a kind of resistance or a force that has to be dealt with in a kind of habitual way, right? And kind of almost an unlearning of habit before somebody's able to follow these kinds of principles of life and thriving.
Yeah, I mean, my students who are on are probably going, "Oh, I cannot believe he just asked him about tech." Oh no. So the very, very short answer is, it's a nightmare, man. It really, really is. It's an app. It's an app. I'm trying to create a movement called Flip Phone Fanatics. So we'll see where we go. Where we go with that.
Okay, thanks. And in the chat, we had a question from Star. Theoretical question: if a hardcore atheist wants to reap the benefits of spirituality, what would you advise them to do? That's a great question. Thanks, Star.
That's a phenomenal question. you can live, you can take every principle and every practice that someone who does have faith would. That's the bottom line on that. There's nothing precluding you, from that. You don't, not at all. You can totally just go for it. It's a great question.
And then how much is the role of like self-compassion, right? Because these are framed as commandments. So somebody may get the impression that maybe it's, how much, how flexible can I be with myself if I'm not living up to the standard of each of these areas and each of these domains. Is that factor large into your model?
Yeah, oh, it absolutely has to, because this is really, really tough. It's so unbelievably tough. I mean, there's just so much pulling and pushing at us from doing this. We have our ups, we have our downs. Do you know what I mean? For sure, man. So it's like, yeah, give yourself the hug and like, let's move on and like go again.
Yeah, thank you. And Christina says, how would you approach a client wanting to prioritize their religion and faith in therapy, and if they are of a faith that you don't identify with?
I mean, there are a lot of, things people we don't identify with, of the people. So it's not, you don't have to identify to be able to help them with that. Maybe it would make it easier, right? And obviously I would assume it would, but I don't think, and look, again, if they're looking for hardcore, like here are the traditions, here are the rules, here's that, then it's like, okay, well then maybe I'm not the best person for you. And that's fine too.
And then Marcella, would you like to open your microphone and ask your question?
Oh, yes, thank you. And it's a little bit based on the question that has been asked already. I'm just trying to like how your book could be used by like other religions rather than Christianity, like Judaism or Islam, for example. They have a sort of 10 commandments, right?
Sure.
And even if a religion does not have a structured guidelines of righteous way of living, they will still have a sort of guideline for value leading behavior. For example, Buddhism, Hinduism, they do have that, even though they don't have a structured 10 commandments, right? And how can this book be used? Because you begun the presentation talking about the value of bringing a spirituality or this type of conversation into an office or into a clinic or into a psychologist or a clinician patient setting, right? And how can this book be used in this setting if you are again talking about a set of structured command that it's not based on a religious belief that the patient have, but you still see through the literature the benefits of spirituality? How do you start this conversation? Not necessarily only an atheist, but someone from Islam background, Judaism background, or a Hindi background, or multi-faith background.
Yeah, well, first again, the 10 commandments to thrive being psychologically, being psychological, not obviously based on any kind of religion. So to that degree, I think it applies to everyone, whatever your background is or not, because I did try to go that kind of that psychological route. And then whatever is in there that is from Christianity, I would say, without even getting specific in terms of the actual rules or anything like that, but there's a lot of just universal truth and principles and practices that I think most people would say, yeah, that makes sense. That's healthy. You know what I mean? I can see that benefiting my home. I can see that benefiting myself. Things like that.
Thanks, Marcella. Molly has a question. If someone has grown up in a verbally abusive home, how would you suggest they approach reframing their self-concept, achieving self-acceptance?
Molly, could you clarify, please?
Yeah, I just was wondering, like when you grow up with a pattern of like self-deprecation, like negative thinking of oneself like negatively, it's gonna be really hard to just say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna accept myself and I'm gonna do what like I um I want to do and like what my gifts are and rather than what people say I should be doing.
Well, well, thanks for clarifying. I agree with what you're saying about how it's, this is especially USA, unconditional self-acceptance. That is crazy hard, crazy hard, right? So sometimes, people say like, oh, well, I can't just change my thinking, to that degree. Like it's not that easy. I would say, yes, I understand. It really is not that easy, right? So one approach would be to start behaving your way into new thinking rather than trying to think your way into new behaving, right? So kind of try and maybe go with the behavior first and then the thought would follow, I would think.
And Sarah asks, have you witnessed helping 20-somethings develop their own personal spirituality leading to a decrease in feelings of loneliness?
100%. Yeah, because they feel more connected to God. They kind of have that opinion or that feeling of like, he's my friend, and he's there for me, that sort of thing. So yeah, I've seen that. And I've had a decent amount, I don't have an exact number, but like atheists, like hardcore, hard diehards, who have read it and then have come to me and then been like, dude, you know what I mean? Like, all right, I'm seeing things a little bit differently. I'm reconsidering here. So that's been just a gift, you know what I mean, to have experienced.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of thank yous and that this was a wonderful presentation, which it was. Dr. Froh, thank you so much for your wisdom and your guidance and helping us understand positive psychology and flourishing from a faith-based perspective. We really appreciate all of your insights tonight and how you've guided us through it with a wonderful song by Kermit. Thank you for that as well. And a heartwarming story that I'm sure it touched my heart and I'm sure it touched everybody's heart who came here this evening. So thank you again. I just want to share that the recording will be available. We will send it out to the registration list. Also, in the chat, just one last reminder, if you're interested in the MAP program, check out our website. We do have a November 6th registration for our information session. So if you're wondering what is it like to be a MAP student, let me figure out more about this degree, come join me for a presentation on Wednesday, November 6th.